The second company we're going to be talking about today is the Candoco Dance Company, which is also located in the UK. It was founded in 1991 by Celeste Dandeker and Adam Benjamin. Candoco actually comes from the words can do. So that's kind of the basis for this whole company, is that you can do it. It began as a weekly dance class for both disabled and able dancers. Dandeker suffered a fall, and she took on the challenge of dancing in a wheelchair. So this led to her passion for more accepting and welcoming dance world, and she wanted to implement that into her company. The mission statement on their website states, quote, "We celebrate different ways of seeing, of being, and of making art, putting us at the forefront of the conversation around dance and disability." And of course, that's exactly what I think they're doing. They're celebrating these different ways of moving, and they explore what someone individually can add to the work, and not about what their disability can add, but how they move can add to the art. They also said, quote, "We are interested in work that reveals something about the people on stage. That brings out the human. It's important to us that you see the dancers through the choreography. We believe this combination of choreographers' visions and dancers' input captures a form of collaboration that sits at the heart of the Candoco Company." And that also touches on my principle of the use of bodies. They're not just trying to present these dancers who move differently. They're trying to present what the human brings to the work. It's not objectifying them, but instead it's like, how is it meaningful to the individual, and how can that be meaningful to the audience who consumes their body? They also said, "We do not help anyone." They're not here for helping people. They create art and raise it to the highest level. Our methods are continuous learning and perfecting our abilities on stage. So this is kind of approaching it in this way of dance is therapeutic and dance is art. They're not trying to create this therapeutic vision, because that's kind of degrading to the art that they bring. It's not that, and I make that very clear. Their youth outreach is, the company has run residential dance training intensives for young disabled and non-disabled dancers. So this kind of plays on the outreach to the youth, and I think they're doing a great job with that. And then I tried to look at some of their performances, and I read that they appeared on this show called BBC Strictly Come Dancing, which is kind of like the American version of So You Think You Can Dance. It's like a competitive entertainment dance world. They were the first contemporary dance company to ever perform. And not only were they the first contemporary dance company, they were also a company that was inclusive of all bodies and not just non-disabled bodies. So that kind of destroyed the mainstream image of what a dancer is. And as I began watching it, I fear that may become more of the dancers performing their disability instead of simply performing. Because commonly I've watched many contemporary pieces with people, let's say, in a wheelchair, and then you have someone who has an able body, and they're just kind of the able-bodied dancer is using the person with a disability as in a way to enhance her ability or her or his ability, instead of using as a way of art and not a way of like saying, "Hey, look, I'm dancing with a disability." But as I watched it, they did a really good job of changing partners and not just saying, "Hey, look, some of these dancers have disabilities, some of them don't." There was very inclusivity, and it wasn't a way of doing tricks and saying, look at me, look at me. It was very beautifully done, and in a fun way. May not be more postmodern, but more contemporary. And then they also did a recreation of Set and Reset, Reset. This is a popular piece by Trisha Brown and has been recreated many times. However, performing for the first time with both disabled and non-disabled dancers innovates the choreography in a completely new way. And I think it adds artistic value to it and new ways of moving that have never been seen before. So they're at the forefront of like changing what dance could be. They also did another performance or another piece called Face In, and this is choreographed by Yasmin Goder. There's a whole video of behind the scenes of what it looks like and the dancers interviewing of how the dance makes them rethink everything. A quote from Michaela Dantes, she's a Candoco dancer. She says, "I'm learning about my identity to myself, my personal identity, but also my creative identity and my creative values." She's learning new things about her creative abilities. Even though she's a professional dancer, she's still learning and creating and changing her perception of dance. Because one perception is just not set and done. It's always changing and changing. And that's, I think, one of the great things about dance and disability. It's innovative and working towards something that the dance world needs. I think another quote from this video is another dancer named Tok Brony Strandby. He says, "It's not about performing it, but about creating a landscape of intention." So he's not here to just perform on stage and then go off stage and it be done. He's thinking about how can I each time create a different world of my intention of what meaning I'm putting behind this. I think that's a really beautiful thing. And then the creator or the choreographer, Yasmin, she says, facing up to ourselves and who we are and not being afraid. So she's playing off this idea of self-identity and we are not just who I am, but trying to go past this box of who I am. So identity of I'm able-bodied, I have a disability, I am black, I am white, I am queer, I am transgender. There's more to us than that. And we have to go beyond that. And I think that's a really beautiful message she displays in her work, Fade In. Their outreach, while they have that 2-week program for the youth, they also have a really inspirational way of performing. Not inspirational as in they're disabled dancers and able dancers dancing on stage, but instead inspirational for more meaning it inspires other people to do the same. Just witnessing Candoco's live performance in the country of Georgia, it inspired the Georgian Parliament Education to help fund the projects of their company, Wheelchair Dance Sports Federation. And they even put a plan in to change the name to the Inclusive Dance Theater. So it's more inspirational in the way that it's creating ways of funding and actually supporting these companies that want to be inclusive and don't just say, we're inclusive, but then deny someone who walks in the door with a disability. So I think we are living in history and seeing the importance of representation in the mainstream dance world, and Candoco's definitely one of those forefront leaders.